This is a man with a mission to not only get this large plywood board on his work surface, but also to make something unique. A response, if you will, to his previous video in which he copied an existing product. The plan? A phone stand. A curved L-shaped phone stand with a tapered handle, an angle adjuster, and a charm that will compel your phone to tell you, "Do not disturb." This build begins with a template drawn into 3/4 inch Baltic birch plywood. Holes are drilled out into the board to make it easier to cut out the angled sections with a jigsaw. Four of these pieces will make up one phone stand. The ply's striped pattern will be the main design feature of this phone stand, as will be seen later. Excess wood is cut off with a handsaw. Now that the intro is over and I have your attention, we can just slow down a little bit, take it down a couple notches. And the next step is to refine the shapes with a router and template. Scrap pieces of wood are used to provide stability to the router going around the curves and bends of the template. This man must admit he has had difficulty in completing this project, well, this narration specifically, because he wants to convey a message, but he does not know how to intertwine that message with this video, so he will say it now. That the single most important thing in the pursuit of a craft or skill is persistence, to do the thing even without the inspiration. It will all come together in the end. Maybe not how you wanted it to, but it will come together. And now the form starts to take shape. The next step was to glue the pieces together. This turned out to be one of the most challenging and stressful aspects of the project. The orders of operations for gluing and clamping were as follows. To account for the hole, aka the mortise, that the sliding handle will fit through, the two center pieces were glued together first. Since multiple phone stands are being made, they were all clamped together at once, using blue tape in between each pair so they wouldn't stick. Once cured, the center pieces were cut at the height of where the mortise would be. A dry fit was done to ensure everything was aligned. The last step was a chaotic glue up. Many clamping calls were used, abused, some were wounded, some didn't make it. I proceeded to clamp the crap out of the phone stand to keep everything aligned and tight. Many clamps of all shapes and sizes were used. The final part of this glue up was to insert that centerpiece that was cut from earlier. It was clamped in with a placeholder in the mortise that would be the same size of the handle, aka the tenon. Because there were so many clamps holding the phone stand together, a lot of the glue was not able to be wiped away before it dried, and this made the sanding stage suck more than usual. And given that this was all end grain, the sanding stage progressed to being unusually sucky. Since this was an object that was going to be touched and manipulated frequently, it was sanded up to 220 grit for a super smooth surface. Getting into those inner curves was not easy. a file was used to home in on that curve and remove some uneven material. One of the issues with not knowing how to complete your narration before your self-imposed deadline is that you're left with portions of your video without commentary. And so this is me doing the thing, doing the narration, pushing through, and sort of meeting my deadline. And unfortunately, you, the audience, have to bear witness to that. The phone stands were cut to their final size with an 11-degree bevel to match the angle of the slant of the phone stand. Every nook and cranny was sanded. Every angle, every face and edge of those damn phone stands was sanded. A very annoying task. But just like this narration, I pushed through. Next, the handles were cut to their rough size. In keeping with the 11-degree theme, an 11-degree bevel was cut onto the front-facing portion of the handle. Now, because I operate outside on my patio and pack everything into a small shed, I really only have one powered cutting tool, and that is my track saw, which I'm using here to create a dado with repetitive cuts, which will be the groove where the phone sits. Now, this is the part where I try and capture some very satisfying chisel work, because I'm literally just copying what I see the big woodworking YouTubers do. Unfortunately, because my chisel is from Harbor Freight, which if you're not familiar with, they're not known for their quality tools, and I've never sharpened it, it didn't exactly work as I had hoped for. I still don't know how to sharpen a chisel, so this is what we're left with. Now, this clip I was very disappointed with because I thought I got a good chisel capture, but it wasn't in focus, unfortunately. A doweling jig is used to center the hole where a cable can run through to charge a phone. Now comes what I consider one of the funner parts of the project, and that is shaping the handles, which was a bit more freeform than anything else in the project. The bulk of the material was cut off with the track saw. Then I moved on to the only other tool I had at my disposal for shaping, an orbital sander. I clamped the orbital sander to the work surface with this wood clamp thing, forgot the name of it, but that allowed me to keep the orbital sander stationary as I shaped the handle, creating a tapered, curved look. I finished off the handles by hand sanding up to 220 grit. To retain the straight edge of the tenon portion of the handle while sanding, sandpaper was taped to a hard, flat surface. To create the locking mechanism for the handle so it would be adjustable, I looked to my Craig Adaptive Cutting System table. There's an extension piece that gets locked in with this lever, known as a cam lever, so I emulated that locking mechanism for the phone stand. The cam levers were created by removing some material with a handsaw, and it was shaped with a file and sanded smooth. The locking mechanism was assembled by drilling in a 1/4-inch hole that would accommodate a binding post and screw. This would bind the cam lever to the phone stand while still allowing for rotation. In this particular case, the cam lever had to be filed down a little bit more so it would actually lock the handle in place. For the finishing stage, I used Danish oil, which I really like because it's so easy to apply compared to the oil-based polyurethane which I had been using previously and requires a lot of technique. Danish oil just requires you to wipe it on and wipe it off. I did 2 coats of Danish oil and let that dry completely. Then paste wax was applied because it offers additional protection, more sheen, and most importantly, a super smooth feel. And now we've come to the part where I'm supposed to tie it in all together. Something about persistence and not giving up, pursuing your craft or something like that. But sometimes you got nothing. Nothing but a really cool looking phone stand that you can use standing up. Sitting down. Or at your desk, where you continue to persist in writing that damn narration. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing. This is Way of the Late Boomer.